Hello, my name is Tiffany, and today is February 22nd, 2025. For my transportation system course, I will be discussing the safety regulations of the United States railroad system. So, the importance of railroad safety regulations. They prevent accidents, injuries, and fatalities. They prevent derailments. The safety regulations protect communities, protect the environment, protect the workers. They prevent property damage, and they promote efficacy and reliability. The railroads play a crucial role in the United States economy, particularly in transporting goods and passengers. However, given their complexity and the high speed at which they travel, railroads often present significant safety risks. Safety regulations are essential to mitigate these risks and protect both human lives and infrastructure. So, now we're going to talk about the history of our railroads, and I think that's important because I think if we know the history, we can appreciate the rules, the laws, and the regulations surrounding railroads today. So, the dark history of our railroads. The 1800s and early 1900s were transformative for railroads. The industry helped fuel economic growth and social change, but it also had a darker side, marked by exploitation and dangerous working conditions for the laborers. Trains were often unsafe, poorly maintained, and accidents were frequent. We can estimate that tens of thousands of deaths occurred due to accidents, labor conditions, and the grueling nature of the work. Trains were less stable, and accidents would happen frequently due to mechanical failures, track conditions, and collisions. Railroad construction and maintenance were highly dangerous occupations, particularly in the building of the transcontinental railroads. To understand the development of railroad safety regulations, we must first examine the state of railroads in the 1800s. Railroads rapidly became a key part of America's economy, particularly after the Civil War. However, during this expansion, safety was often compromised in favor of speed and profit. With heavier trains operating at higher speeds, accidents became more frequent. These included train derailments, boiler explosions, bridge collapses. Also, insufficient employee training and poor working conditions led to increased accidents or injuries in the workplace. So, keeping on with the history of the railroads, some railroad related disasters. The Ashtabula River Railroad disaster in 1876. A train crashed into the Ashtabula River in Ohio, killing 92 people. The Great Train Wreck in 1856. A collision between two trains near Philadelphia resulted in over 60 deaths. The Chatsworth train wreck in 1887, a derailment near Chatsworth, Illinois, resulted in the death of 85 passengers. At this point, public outcry for safer railroads had become undeniable. In 1871, Senator Charles Sumner introduced a resolution calling for a government investigation into railroad safety. However, it wasn't until 1893 that the first major piece of railroad safety legislation, the Safety Appliance Act, was passed. This law mandated improvements in working conditions for railroad employees and aimed to enhance public safety during travel. Although its implementation was slow, by 1908, accidents related to coupling and uncoupling trains had significantly decreased. So now we're going to talk about some early safety regulations that started to go into effect after all those tragedies. So the Safety Appliance Act was 1893. This law was one of the first major steps in making railroads safer for workers and passengers. Before this, trains used manual couplers which were dangerous and difficult to operate. Air brakes weren't required at all on trains. The law improved safety, especially by protecting workers who had to deal with dangerous tasks like coupling trains, and it helped control trains more effectively overall. Accident Report Accident Report Act in 1910 was created, and it created a system to track accidents, injuries, and fatalities on the railroads. The Federal Railroad Administration, which is the FRA, was created by the Department of Transportation Act of 1966. So what role does the FRA play? So the FRA plays a central role in ensuring the safety of the nation's railroad industry. Its Office of Railroad Safety is responsible for setting and enforcing safety standards. It employs over 400 safety inspectors who focus on a variety of technical areas like grade crossing, hazardous material, equipment, operating practices, signal and train control, track safety. The FRA's regulations cover nearly every aspect of railroad operations. They require strict standards for track maintenance, train crew size, employee qualifications, signal systems, and hazardous material transportation. Compliance with these regulations affect everything from staffing decisions to scheduling and equipment maintenance. So now we're going to get into what some of these regulations look like. The FRA establishes standards for track structure geometry, including speed limits based on the track class. Regular inspections are required to detect and address defects that could lead to an accident. They have regulations on the crew size to ensure that sufficient personnel is available to operate the train safely. The FRA sets certification and training requirements for railroad employees, especially their engineers and signal personnel. The FRA defines rules for train movement, signal interpretation, communication protocols, and emergency response. They have strict rules surrounding hazardous material being transported and even the hours of service to prevent fatigue-related accidents. The impact of FRA regulations on railroad operations. It does increase safety by enforcing safety standards. The FRA helps prevent collision, derailment, and hazardous material spills, protecting workers and the public. Operational costs. Compliance with the FRA rules increase operating costs due to the required maintenance, training, and equipment upgrades. Planning and scheduling. The FRA regulation influence how railroads plan and schedule their operations, especially concerning crew assignments and rest periods and maintenance. Enforcement. Railroads that fail to comply with the FRA regulations face fines and penalties and can lead to operational disruptions. So now we're going to talk about the financial and logistical impacts of the FRA regulations. So following the FRA regulations, it costs money. Railroads have to spend money on things like employee training, track repairs, and inspection. These rules and laws increase the cost of running the railroad. Railroads may need to raise prices for the customers to cover these costs. Railroads have to plan their schedules and staffing carefully to meet the FRA requirements, which can slow the train schedules. They also have to plan for regular inspections and maintenance, which could lead to delays. These regulations make railroads operate more safely, but add more complexity to their daily planning. So my conclusion to railroad safety regulations is the safety rules set by the FRA are really important for keeping the U.S. railroads safe. These rules impact how railroads run every day, from scheduling trains to maintaining tracks and training workers. While these regulations help prevent accidents and keep things safe, they also make operations more expensive and complicated. Railroads have to find a balance between safety and efficacy, and the FRA's rules are a big part of that. As a new problem comes up, these regulations will keep changing to make sure railroads stay safe, and the railroads companies will have to keep up with those changes.